Hey, Angie.
Good morning. Welcome to Winning at Life. Live Financial News Talk Radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. Welcome to the show. Gosh, another busy week in the financial world. Another busy week for your money. Is your money working for you? Is it working in the right way? You have questions, concerns, wanting some direction? Maybe what to do with that Social Security turn on date? To turn it on, wait. What about that pension? Have a lot of discussions lately about 401k and pension decisions. They're all big decisions because you're impacting your future. We can talk about these things on this radio show that we've been doing for over 12 years now. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. Real quick for new listeners, I've been in the financial services industry for decades, also advising and guiding business owners, professionals, individuals about how to make better financial decisions, kind of the core of the show here. In my day job, I'm CEO, founder, and wealth advisor at Gregory Ricks & Associates, a total wealth authority. And we have a great team of people along with other wealth advisors on the team and several offices. We'll get more into that. But on the show today, we have Wes Blanchard joining us this hour, estate planning attorney. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. If you want to reach out to the show and join the conversation of the past 12 years, the number one topic, number one question would be about Social Security. The second is probably 401k decisions as well. And, when I speak publicly, the number one topic is, will my money last in retirement? That's the primary concern in that case is, will my money last? So if you want to join the conversation and talk about some of those things, here's the phone number to join in the show. And we're here till 1 o'clock, so it's 3 hours of live radio. We're streaming over on Facebook Live, on our YouTube channel. And the list continues, but those are the top two areas where we get the most response from streaming at. So you can join us through that. Once again, that phone number is 504-2600-995. You can reach out to us through the Winning at Life app. You can text, email, call the show through the app. And it gets you membership. You download it, gets you membership in the Winning at Life Nation. So you get weekly updates about what's going on, what's upcoming on the show, the Wednesday Q&A that we do, and information about the Ask Gregory podcast, which we're adding new episodes pretty regularly right now and have a number of seasons, 4 or more, built up there. So once again, want to join the conversation, just to call in. Now, by the way, let me throw out the email. If you want to email us directly, it's info@gregoryricks.com. Through the app, you could text, email, call the show, also stream audio and connect to the visual streaming like Facebook and so forth. And over on the Facebook page is the Winning at Life page. You can go over there and friend us. And my personal page is Gregory Ricks, and you can friend as well. Once again, the call directly ends 504-260-0995. Let's welcome Wes Blanchard to the show today. How are you doing, Wes?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing really great. It's a great busy summer, and the joy of it is getting to help people with their financial decisions and direction and help them on a winning path. In the same way for estate planning as well. What kind of concerns and topics are you fielding lately?
Lately, and I guess somewhat unfortunately, it's been a lot of education on the succession process. You know, we've had a good group of clients come in and you know, they kind of are facing that point in time. And, you know, somewhat typically, everybody's got a little bit of a different understanding of it. And some folks are a lot closer to the truth, and some folks are a lot closer to, you know, not being in reality. And so that can take some time. But we do offer solutions, so we're always happy to steer the conversation in the right direction and give some answers. But that's kind of been primarily where we've been focused over the last month or two.
What would you say the general misunderstanding is about it?
A probate process or succession process in general, it's pretty well misunderstood. We had a couple come in this weekend, or this week, I should say, and they had some will documents. They had a trust drawn up inside of there, and we're talking through some of the ins and outs of it. And they seem to be on the right path. And right near towards the end of the conversation, one of them said, well, you know, I think I have this trust set up and, you know, with this will, and I ought to be able to avoid probate with that, correct? And, you know, I paused and said, no, that's the absolute opposite. This is exactly what you're going to be doing with this document, is to get into succession. So we had to have that discussion about how that looks. Another thing that
okay, hold on. What was he thinking was going to avoid succession? Having the will?
Well, there's a trust inside of his will,
okay,
which is something that we do pretty often. You know, you're setting it up for kids and grandkids and the like. And in that it was apparent that there was a misunderstanding between the attorney who helped them draft that document. And our conversation. They were of the opinion that the trust itself, even though it was inside of a will, that was going to allow them to bypass the succession process. So that was something that was interesting.
Was it a revocable trust?
Well, in this case, it was a testamentary trust. So there was no trust in place. And we had that conversation to explain that this trust is just not going to pop open until you pass away. And in fact, it's not going to open until you have the succession process open. So, you know, a little bit off of the center of a misunderstanding of succession, but it's at the very front of it. And we see that a lot. We see that a lot because we're getting a lot of folks more and more so that want to bypass the succession process. That's becoming more and more of a preference now that there's a little more education on those revocable trusts.
Yeah, so he kind of had the process backwards. He would end up with a trust after succession when he thought he was bypassing succession, which means He would need to utilize a trust now. Wouldn't that be correct if you're wanting to bypass
That's correct.
succession?
That is correct, and that's the way. We ended up talking through how to do that, and it sounds like we're going to head in that direction for them. But again, just circling back to the misunderstanding of the succession process, it's not something that is easily avoidable. Okay, it can be done, but it's got to be done carefully. It's got to be done with detail, and so we want to make sure that is accomplished appropriately.
Yeah, and that's assuming you have 100% of everything in the proper trust prior to death. And I know they speak about pour over or something to the effect of you're really probably not having everything in. So even though you may do that strategically, there's still going to be a little bit outside of that, right?
That's right. And you're referring to a pour over will. That's really a vehicle that's utilized alongside of a revocable trust. And what that does is it acts as a catch-all. Okay, so if you have some assets that you didn't end up transferring into trust for whatever reason, what that pour over will does is it says, please transfer these assets into the trust and administer them under the terms dictated in that trust. So it's really just a little fail-proof mechanism that we utilize alongside of our revocable trust.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so what was the next thought you were bringing up regarding concerns?
Yeah, so these concerns are, we have a mom and dad, and one passes away, and let's say mom passes, and dad's got access to all the accounts. He's got the ability to still live in the house. He's not really feeling any restrictions on ownership and things like that. But the thought there is, well, I don't have to do succession on mom until dad passes away, and then we could just do them both at the same time. Sounds easy enough, but what generally ends up happening is one of two things. If you wait way too long, okay, rebuilding mom's succession, 10, 15 years later, it looks a lot different than if you did it a couple months after she passed. Okay, the access to all the information is a lot different. It makes it a lot more difficult to piece together. And the reality of it is that in turn makes it a lot more expensive to accomplish. So that's one misconception. The other side of that is, dad or mom may not realize that, hey, when my spouse passes away, I might want to downsize from this big house that I'm in. I don't need this space anymore. That is going to require that sale, that refinance, that whatever you want to do to get that property sold. That's going to require a succession to be completed. So there's not really much of a window for you to, reasonably wait to do the succession. You can get by with it, but you may end up paying for it in the long run.
Well, one of the things I think on the front end is they're thinking about costs, one, and then realizing they want to be able to move on regarding that estate and take control of assets, and they can't until this process moves through. So we'll talk about the timeliness of this when we come back from the break with Wes Blanchard. He's a estate planning attorney that's with us this hour. So we've got a lot more from Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks when we come back. If you want to join the conversation, it's 504-260-0995. We'll be right back. Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks. Tuesday, July 12th and Thursday, July 14th, 6:30, Keith Young Steakhouse in Madisonville. Reserve your seat now, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
What's cooking, Gumbo Nation? This is Dwayne Stein, your local mortgage lender. Bread prices up. Milk is up. Inflation way up. I know this can all be overwhelming. That's why you need to know I got you. Tens of thousands have trusted me and my team with their largest investment, the home. So while things look cloudy, let's work to make sure when the dust settles, your family is ready to take advantage. Visit mortgagegumbo.com.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can hear the Ask Gregory podcast, where you'll find episodes based on a financial topic. So if you're looking for help on a specific situation, there's a good chance you'll find it on the Ask Gregory podcast, including episodes on 401ks, taxes, stocks, Social Security, gold, and whether or not you should buy an RV. Hear the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
If you've been listening to Winning at Life for a while now, you probably already know that estate planning is more than just a will. You may need a trust. You definitely need both of your powers of attorney. So what's your plan? Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney with offices in Metairie. Listen, don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me and we'll make you a plan or update your existing plan. Find me at wjblanchardlaw.com.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
One of the core jobs with annuities that goes back hundreds of years is to guarantee income for life. It has that option in there. We like to use it as a distribution tool of income that, markets go all to hell and your assets won't go down. So that should be part of your blend to help levelize volatility with some risk-averse assets that's going to grow despite what's going on in the markets. It can be pension-like money, and a lot of what we do is bond-like money in that world. Bond-like is what annuities do, not what they are.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
We ain't playing nothing slow at the parking lot party. A tailgate buzz just a sipping on.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back. You just tuned in. You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. Show's been around for over 12 years now, helping you reach your financial destination. That's what planning is. Sometimes, I think people think about getting a plan. Do you have a plan? That gets you started. But the bigger question is, are you doing ongoing planning? And I think you need to make adjustments. I kind of like this metaphor, but I'm not a sailor for sure, but I understand the concept, and I've done some sailing a long time ago. But you just don't get on the water and set the sail and, hey, I'm good for the rest of the day. You're going to be making continuous adjustments as you go. Some of it could be because of you're wanting to change direction, or you're not liking the conditions. Maybe it's the risk, or the wind, or the weather is altering your path, so you're needing to make adjustments to your sail, to your boat going forward. That's what I look at when we're trying to reach our financial destination. And that's kind of the halfway point. If you're selling somewhere, you've got to return, I would believe, back to port. If we're trying to achieve financial goals, and you might say a destination kind of means when you have achieved a work optional lifestyle, then you've got to go to the distribution phase. And things change continuously, whether it's returns, market volatility, your need of income, taxes, estate planning. You know, that's what's more important. Are you doing ongoing planning? If you want to join the conversation with Wes Blanchard and myself, he's the estate planning attorney with us this hour. And I think it's this concept I just explained, I think it really applies to estate planning as well. The phone number to join the conversation is 504 2600995, or reach out to us through the Winning at Life app. You can text, email, call through the Winning at Life app as well, and we'll take your questions this hour for myself, but also you ought to utilize Wes Blanchard, whether you're trying to do a will, thinking about a trust, needing to handle succession, or powers of attorney. There's so many areas there that are critical. So Wes, one of the, you heard what I was saying right there, and I think that really applies to estate planning as well. So we can just do an estate plan and we're good for 30 or 40 years with that thing, that document or documents?
Yes and no. It's one of these things you certainly want to make sure you know where you're going. Everybody's life changes, and that's new people coming in. That's some folks who were in going out. And when those folks play a role inside of your plan, that's when it's time to start thinking about updating. It's when it's time to start thinking about adjustments. And so those are the trigger points that we try to point out to our clients and to prospective clients. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and it certainly doesn't fit forever. So, to answer your question, it's good to get off to a nice start. And sometimes your life doesn't change all that much by the time you put that plan in place or put it to use. But oftentimes it does.
I think life changes, and sometimes it's not necessarily, and look, life changes is even in the household. A couple, one typically is going the norm, one's going to pass before the other. There's right there is an adjustment. Now that may came for a while, but value of assets, how assets are titled, or wanting to change from their current house to another living situation that better suits them for retirement. Children get married, children can get divorced or pass away. Yeah, I could just go to so many things, even how powers of attorney are handled, or how you want end of life handled. And we do, just like somebody we get them a risk number. And I think that's something that needs to be regularly reviewed. And people are coming in, and I would say traditionally, they probably over the past 10 years have kind of scored a higher risk number than what they really are. Why? The market over the past 10 years had one negative year in 2018 of a little more than 4% down. So, oh yeah, I'm fine with risk. Sure you are, because the market's been going up every year, but now that the S&P 500's off a neighborhood of 20%, they're not so fine with it now. And that's where you kind of think about, I'd say example of end of life requests could alter when you get closer to end of life and need to make those adjustments. Now, what if the government impacts it? Like the Secure Act impacted trusts that people are utilizing for leaving on their IRAs. And I see sometimes things are changing, and that's a really big impact on planning that has been done for the past couple decades, probably, from that standpoint. So I do think it's what you do kind of sets the sell, but you're still there's still going to be adjustments and revisits that. And that doesn't necessarily mean they have to sit down with you, because that's kind of something, in our annual strategy meetings with clients, that is something that we bring up every year and looking for what has changed. Is anything changed that would impact beneficiaries? Or did you make some changes in the past year that we aren't aware of? And kind of having that ongoing discussion. Any thoughts there?
Yeah. So two things. I think the first thing to know, and this is not me, selling my book or anything, but when you work with me, I understand that, right? You and I have had this discussion a multitude of times, and we understand not only can a government regulation change on you like the Secure Act did, but life changes. So I'm not the kind of person that's going to nickel and dime you when your life changes. When you have someone in your will that passes away, or when you want to add a grandchild in or a nephew or things like that, we're not going to charge you for that. And I had a conversation with some clients this week, and they kind of tilted their head when I told them that, but that's the truth. When you work with our firm, it's a one-time flat fee payment. That's it. Because we want you to feel comfortable coming in and changing those beneficiaries when the time is right. Not that it costs you $200 to come in and sit down and adjust your document. I don't think that that's the right way to approach a relationship with our clients. So we don't do that. But the second point there is, I usually am not one to wave a cautionary flag for government intervention, but we have seen a lot more of it in the last 8 to 10 years as it pertains to estate planning and retirement planning in general. So you do need to work with people who understand that is an evolving place in government, whether you're on the right or the left. They're all pushing for some sort of adjustment. And that Secure Act was a big one. That was a big one. That impacted a lot of folks who were designing trust, as you mentioned, around IRA beneficiaries. So do keep that in mind. Do keep that at the top of your mind, honestly, because that, along with your family adjustments, could very well be the biggest change that you see over your lifetime.
I'm making a couple notes here for coming back from the break here. One of them is we'll talk about the impact of the Secure Act a little bit. I also want to go back to something at the last break. I teased coming back and just talking about the timing or time in succession, what the expectation of that and what generally makes that go longer. I want to talk about that as well in the next segment, if we can get both in. Both, I think, are lengthy topics as well. So once again, if you're looking to get some help on financial planning, estate planning, hey, we've got another half hour coming up in the show here with Wes. I'm on till 1 o'clock, so it's not ending after this. So if you want to join the conversation, 504-2600-995. And if you're wanting to reach out to Wes, we can connect you up at my firm. So, website's gregoryricks.com. The email is info@gregoryricks.com. And go explore the website. There's access to Wes through that as well. And we're going to take a break here for a couple of minutes. Once again, we've got offices in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Mandeville, Louisiana, Metairie, Louisiana, and Gulfport, Mississippi. And there's only one number to call if you're looking for some help. Here it is, 504-832-9200. Even if you've got a question you don't want to ask on the air here, call the office. We're of service. We're here to help. If you want some help, you don't have to become a client. You just ask. You're listening to Winning at Life. We'll be right back.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I'm your host, Gregory Ricks, a financial advisor here to answer your questions and help you win with your money.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Simple information from good people.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Could this be your Social Security, your 401k, pension, lump sum, your debt, student debt, credit cards?
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years. Sometimes I'll pull over to the side of the road and just listen.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
If you're unprepared for current market volatility and concerned about how it could impact you, take action now. I'm Gregory Ricks. Let us help you devise a strategy to navigate this market. Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals. Schedule a visit at GregoryRicks.com. We are Gregory Ricks & Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
The firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC, and Gregory Ricks & Associates are not affiliated companies.
Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks. Tuesday, July 19th and Wednesday, July 20th, 6:30, Fleming Steakhouse in Metairie. Reserve your seat now. 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Cancer Crusaders has been raising funds for cancer research in New Orleans since 1976. Cancer Crusaders, Inc. is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization with no administrative overhead. Cancer Crusaders has raised over $4 million so far, and all of that money goes to the Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center Foundation and the Tulane Cancer Center in New Orleans, where they are literally working on a cure for cancer. Get involved, donate, volunteer, or attend a fundraiser. CancerCrusadersLA.com.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. More U.S. monetary aid has been earmarked for Ukraine as it continues to battle Russian invaders.
We'll continue to provide humanitarian assistance to the Ukrainian people. Today, I can announce the United States will provide nearly $368 million in additional support, including food, safe drinking water, cash assistance, emergency health care, shelter.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Indonesia. Reaction to Elon Musk's decision to call off his $44 billion deal to purchase Twitter. This lawmaker says it's due to the social media platform's transparency issues.
I think he's finding real problems in there about the business practices of Twitter. They're not being transparent with him. They're obviously not being transparent with their users or with conservatives.
GOP Congressman Ted Budd of North Carolina on Fox. Twitter says they'll sue Musk. America is listening to Fox News.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Yeah, that's my girl in the passenger seat. Windows down, dancing around, causing a scene. That's my girl, sipping Crown and Sprite in a ball cap, turn back. Ooh, she got me like, yeah, baby girl, you're gonna done it.
Welcome back. You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. You know, some of the big news that's happened yesterday afternoon are richest guy on the planet decide he wanted out of a business deal. And somebody I was talking to said, well, God, that's $1 billion. You know, I am not sure what his worth is, but I think it's over 200 billion, but let's just say it's 200 billion dollars and it's going to cost him $1 billion. Yeah, and let's think about it this way. If you have $200,000 and you're wanting to get out of a deal and it's going to cost you $1,000, are you going to be okay? Yeah. If you're wanting out, yeah, you're going to be okay. And I'm pretty certain he's going to be worth a lot more 10 years from now than what he's doing today, based on the businesses that he's in, is my only basis for figuring that, because those are capitalized companies that are in demand. So, and my other thought is I still think he's going to end up owning Twitter with the consortium that he has put together. That's my thought. This is probably just another part of business. If you've got a financial situation, on this hour, we have Wes Blanchard in studio with us, and I'm here as well. If you've got a question, need some help, 504-260-0995. So let's go to the Winning at Life hotline. We have Jesse from Hammond. Welcome to Winning at Life. How can we help you today, Jesse?
Y'all were mentioning a while ago, my wife and I have a living trust, a revocable trust. My wife passed away several years ago. Y'all were talking about opening a succession. All of the real property was in the trust at the time. About the only thing I could think of that might not have been in the trust was an automobile. And my question is, do I need to open a succession on her?
So that was the only thing outside of the trust is the automobile, any bank account or savings account?
No, all of that was in the trust.
Okay. What do you think, Wes?
Sounds like it was pretty well done. I think you're in a good spot. You know, I don't know if you were listening at the time we discussed those pour over wills, but that's usually what we're utilizing that for. The language we place in those pour over wills tends to cover automobiles, trailers, and other motorized vehicles, boats, and things like that, anything with a title. And the fact is, you can take that will along with your registration and a death certificate to the DMV, and they will typically transfer a title at that point. You'll need the original, but they'll transfer a title usually for $35 right there at the DMV. And so that's our little workaround for those, assuming you have a pour over will.
And if the automobiles were in my name only, I didn't have to do that. Is that correct?
That's correct. You're not going to have a titling issue.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Sure. Can I give you one word of caution?
Sure.
If you didn't have a pour over will in place, I would go ahead and get one in place for you now, because you're in a good spot because of the way the automobiles are titled currently. But your heirs are not going to be in such an advantageous position. So if you get that pour over will drafted up, then your heirs are going to be able to take that same route we just discussed going to the DMV.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Awesome. Glad we could help, Jesse. Thanks for listening to Winning at Life. Calling in. If you want to be a part of the conversation, 504-260-0995. So when we have that coming up, succession, so what's typically the timing of that? So let's look at it two parts. Without this great paperwork like Jesse had, so that was pretty simple. There's actually, zero timing to that. It's taken care of before it's happened. So if they don't have documentation, and because that's one of the biggest questions I get was, and somebody comes to us and somebody else is handling it, like it's taken forever for this to get done. Why is that?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do, with your prep work. That's a big deal. Is everything in order? Are you leaving your heirs to search for what you owned? That can be a very, very bad start, and that is going to get you stuck in the mud pretty quickly. The other thing is, obviously some bickering back and forth between the heirs. Obviously, you could hire the wrong counsel to help you through that. That'll slow you down. But it's kind of a plethora of things. But it generally starts with poor planning, as far as, again, knowing where your assets are and how to get to them. And then, secondarily, something you can't usually control is fighting amongst the heirs. Those are going to be your two hallmarks for a slow, drawn-out succession process.
I've got a question that just came to mind. And one of the things, that we like to protect and utilize is the step-up basis on property. So that's like, for example, stocks have a step-up basis at death, meaning it steps up from the previous purchase value to the value at death. So if it was bought at 40 and is worth 80 at death, then that person inheriting it gets that step-up basis or inherits it at 80, so it's not a taxable event. Same example with real estate. Somebody bought a property at 40, leaves it to somebody else, say a son, and it's valued at 80, they get that step-up basis. Now, when we put real estate and such inside of a trust, and one of the things I always recommend, and we've talked about this so many times, is there's a death, there needs to be a appraisal of that property. If it's land, house, so forth, get an appraisal so you can protect that step-up basis and have justification of the value. The next is, what if it's in a trust? Do we still go get those appraisals?
Yes, to answer that question, I would say this. It's generally a good idea to get your appraisal done. However, if the plan is to sell the property shortly after the person's passed, well, then the market's basically going to give you the appraisal for free. Okay, so understand that potential windfall. However, protection of that step-up basis is very, very important. It's one of the few things that I'm happy to tell people about when we're in this succession process, is to say, look, you actually do end up with a big tax windfall. Here's how it works. You just explained it very well, and the concept applies directly to real estate the same way it does to stock. So you do get a big tax windfall, and it's something that you absolutely need to preserve. Most of the time, we are going to suggest the appraisal. However, more recently, I think because the market has been so active and prices on homes have been so high, we have been seeing more and more of heirs deciding to either sell immediately, or if it's a surviving spouse, that person is, decided to downsize and get such a good price for this. We haven't recent, however, been able to help some clients and get coordinated with an appraisal, because you're hitting the nail on the head. It's one of the major tax benefits that you can get at this time, and you really need to be able to justify that to the IRS when you're telling them that I'm only reporting a gain of $5,000 on a sale where, I really netted close to 200, right? So you need to be able to justify that.
So if a death occurs, real estate's involved, there's going to be a step-up basis, and you're planning to sell it in the near future. So you kind of say, well, the market kind of takes care of that. What kind of time frame are we talking about that would be reasonable?
If your plan is to sell it within 90 to 120 days, I think that's a reasonable request or justification, because most sales on the home, if you had an agreement to sell the home 1 week after your mom or dad passed away, it is in all likelihood still going to take 45 days before you're handing over keys and checks. So you want to be cognizant of that. But on the other side of things, a 90 to 120 day window is what you would typically see in a real estate transaction prior to this market boom that's happened over the last 2 years or so. So I think that window is justifiable to establish the step-up tax basis.
Okay, that's a great answer. So that also, on the other side of that, if you're planning on holding the property for a while, business, stocks, real estate holdings, get an appraisal or valuation or noting of where the price is. You're listening to Winning at Life. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. I'm going to plug what we kind of do as my day job during the week. We help you with your money. We're money managers, we're strategists, income planners, investments. Another is healthcare, whether it's long-term care or Medicare, and having supplements and such, estate planning. And then the fifth part is tax planning, creating tax efficiency. regardless of the area you're listening to across the country, we can do video meetings. We can start with a phone call, do Zoom meetings. As far as in office, I have an office in Gulfport, Mississippi, in Mandeville, Baton Rouge, and also in Metairie, Louisiana. So the office number is 504-832-9200. The website is gregoryricks.com, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
When I was growing up, my mom relied on old wives' tales to get rid of outdoor bugs. One method included putting 2 pennies in a bag of water and hanging them throughout the backyard. And let's not forget Mom's go-to, the citronella candle, which never worked. It's the 20s. We have science and much more thorough ways to get rid of bugs. Call Mosquito Joe. Mosquito Joe has this time-release capsule that they spray that slowly releases their mosquito death over a course of a month. Because mosquitoes suck. NewOrleans.mosquitojoe.com.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I'm your host, Gregory Ricks, a financial advisor here to answer your questions and help you win with your money.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Simple information from good people.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
You know, one of the things I get questions about often is about investing. Hey, I've got some money. What should I do? Where should I put it? I'll ask next, how much money are we talking about? Well, yeah, I've got $5,000 to invest. So where should I go with it? And then the next question would be, is that emergency money? Do you have another account with emergency money in that? And a lot of times the answer is no. Then my next point would be, that sure sounds like emergency money. And you need to have that before you go elsewhere, saving or investing.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or gregoryricks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. We're wrapping up this hour 1 of the 3-hour show. We'll be here with you till 1 o'clock today, talking about money, investing, savings, making better decisions with your money. We're wrapping up this hour with Wes Blanchard, estate planning attorney. And if you want to join the conversation, we've got Richard coming up next on the Winning at Life hotline. He called 504-260-0995. Welcome to the show, Richard. How can we help you today?
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Oh, doing great.
My wife just retired, and we got about $30,000. What's the best thing to do with that?
How much emergency money do you have?
We've been living paycheck our whole lives, Greg.
Okay.
Paycheck to paycheck.
Where is this 30,000? Where is this 30,000 at? Is it in savings?
Lawyer right now.
Okay, so it's part of her. Right, it's part of her retirement plan.
Understood, right?
Yeah, it's part of her retirement plan from her employer if it's over at that firm, likely. So it's in a 401k or something like that?
I'm not sure about that part.
Okay. Well, it's likely to be taxable upon distribution. I would.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So it's not all her money, but being you've always lived paycheck to paycheck, in essence, you and Uncle Sam, the U.S. government or Treasury, however you want to define it. I'm not biased in any way, except the government's kind of part owner of that account. In your situation, that brief information and the always living paycheck to paycheck, that is your emergency account. Just knowing when you're taking something out of it, it is going to be a taxable distribution. I would be very conservative with that account as well, because it is your emergency money. When I define something as emergency money, I'm not really worried about yield. I'm worried about access to it when I need it. So you also need to be clear on how she can access that money. I would treat it as conservative. Typically, emergency money's down the street money, but we don't want to create a taxable event. Just knowing when you take money out, you need to do some withholding. And they're going, if you're leaving it at the plan, they're going to require you to take 20% withholding. That might be more than the taxable amount, might be less. But if you think your tax on that's going to be higher, I would have them withhold more so you don't receive a disruptive tax bill at tax time when it's time to file. Otherwise, I'm being really conservative with that money, and I'm looking at it as emergency money. It's not investment money if she's in the retirement phase. Even if you're still working, I still look at that amount of money at this point as emergency money, because you don't need to lose it. Does that make sense?
The best investment you're saying is leave it right there and don't touch it.
Well, it depends on how it's invested there. I would be ultra conservative, because what you're telling me, your lifestyle and your situation, that's emergency money. If something happens, something breaks, and you need some money, that's where it's at. I don't want it going down with the market, and I just need to access it when you are going to need some, and you will. In the future, you're going to need some money.
Yeah, well, I really didn't call thinking about investing it. I knew my situation and what you said, and I just wanted to know the best thing to do to take that less of a hit, like you said, from the taxes.
Yeah, there's no workaround on the taxes. I had a discussion the other day, and Wes, you'll find this interesting as well, as was asking, if we do this, does that avoid taxes? Or if she inherits the money, does she have to pay taxes on the qualified accounts? Nothing makes those taxes go away. If it's untaxed, somebody's paying the taxes, whether it's her, you, or your kids you're leaving it to in the future. And I'd be clear also on where that money's at, is make sure the beneficiary instructions on that account are up to date and going how she as well as you want that to distribute it, so there's no access. But knowing that it's in a company plan and she dies and you're going to I need some of that money for the funeral or whatever the case may be, that's got to be retitled to you, and that's going to probably take weeks to do so. So just think about that also in that. And it might be, if you're kind of saying, well, I'd like some of that money at the bank, you could set up an IRA at savings account at the bank, for example, or you take some out and pay on the pay taxes on it, subject to your tax bracket, and stay within that so you're not paying more. There's a couple of other ideas for you there. Does that help you, Richard?
Yes, sir, it does.
Awesome. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend.
Hey, thanks.
Wes, what are your thoughts on emergency money like that? I thought we were pretty insightful and gave him some good guidance there in that situation on that emergency money.
Yeah, I think that's really thoughtful advice. What we see a lot of concern with when we sit down with potential clients is always the immediate aftermath when someone passes away. How do I access money for funerals, for last medical bills and expenses? And that is a huge deal, because as quickly as we can work to get a succession opened up, it's generally still not quick enough. So having not only emergency money available, but accessible is a very, very sound bit of advice. So we utilize powers of attorney, obviously, when you're still here. But we also typically recommend that there be someone on the account of a smaller account. Maybe, you have $5,000 or $10,000 in there. It's not your largest account holding by any stretch, but you still have someone who can go in there and has power and authority to access that money to assist with sort of the immediate need following someone passing away.
Yeah, well, POA handles, being it's a qualified account, it's going to have to be retitled if there's a death. A POA is not going to get them into that account when a death has occurred on an IRA. But if they have incapacitated, that would give access to that account while that person's living, right?
That's exactly right, and that, I appreciate that bit of clarity. But that's what I was hoping to get across there. Is you want to have a plan in place, obviously while you're here, but then secondarily when you pass away. So we try to cover both ends of that spectrum. One utilizing a POA, and the other one making sure that someone is on a smaller checking account to help with those last second expenses. Yeah. So that other thought I kind of gave at the end, and I'll try to add a little more clarity to that. And I was talking about, tax brackets there before he bounces into the next tax bracket. How much margin is there in that same tax bracket? Because I was thinking of kind of, if they've got 30,000, if they could kind of get 5, 6, or 7,000 at the bank at savings account, which is ready access. You got to be good stewards, not just all of a sudden, oh, I've got $5,000. What can we buy or do? Want to travel? It's emergency money. Manage it that way. Be a good steward of having access to money when the emergency rises in the future. But it might be shift to, if you could do that over time, shift that emergency money from a pre-tax status, shift it to an after tax status with that in mind, so there's access to that. And the other thing, you brought up powers of attorney, and I think that's something that's really neglected and generally is not exercised much, but when that emergency happens, a power of attorney is pretty important. And one of the most dangerous things we do every day, Wes, and I know you do it every day like I do, we get in the car and go somewhere. And there's crazies out there. You see these people swerving in lanes. All it takes is a bump of a car and things are getting chaotic. So something could happen. And that's why I think you need a power of attorney. It doesn't mean it's active. And that's something I was talking to my team about yesterday. And I said, there's a difference. If there's a power of attorney, we need to know about it, but we also need to know, is it active or inactive, and what activates it also? You want to give some clarity on that? Yeah, it's a very important point. You can have a power of attorney that is immediately active upon signature, and the person that you've appointed can now transact on your behalf the second after the signature is dry. Where we typically stand is we like to have powers of attorney that activate only upon the event causing the incapacity. So up until that point, no one can act on your behalf. No one can, kind of take over your own intentions. But we do have a trigger mechanism in there that says once a doctor is certified that this person's no longer able to make their own decisions, no longer able to handle their finances, we have a written letter certified by that doctor, and that serves as the activating mechanism within the power of attorney. So you provide that power of attorney, you provide that letter, to your financial advisor, to your banker, and that effectively opens up the power of attorney. And I think that's the safest route. But you're really, hitting it on the head again to note that when you're speaking with these folks, you need to understand what is that trigger mechanism. Okay, it's one that doesn't open up right away. We understand that. We're on a hard break right here. You're listening to Winning at Life. If you want to reach out to Wes, go to GregoryRicks.com and check out our team. I am your host, Gregory Ricks. You've been listening to Winning at Life. We'll be right back in a few minutes.
From the Gregory Ricks & Associates Wealth Management Studios, WRNO-FM, New Orleans, an iHeartRadio station.
Applying pressure on the president. I'm Pam Huso. Fox News. More action in the nation's capital by supporters of abortion rights who believe President Biden should be doing more to restore reproductive protections. Yesterday, he signed an executive order aimed at safeguarding access to the procedure. He also called on Americans to make their voices heard in November.
When tens of millions of women vote this year, they won't be alone. Millions and millions of men will be taking up the fight alongside them to restore the right to choose.
Today's rally will include a sit-in outside the White House. The diplomatic divide between the U.S. and China continues to widen, but the lines of communication remain open. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with China's foreign minister on the sidelines of the G20 summit.
Blinken met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi for 5 hours of talks in Indonesia as tensions between the two countries rise over issues including trade and tariffs, Taiwan's independence, and the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Blinken says he expressed doubts that China is remaining neutral concerning the war, despite what Beijing is saying.
Fox's Kevin Uretsky. Can the world's richest man legally walk away from a blockbuster deal to take over Twitter? That's what Elon Musk wants to do.
This really all comes down to the number of spam bots on the platform. The reason bots are so important is that Musk has made it known he intends to grow the company's revenue, and that rests on having real active users. In the filing, Musk's lawyers arguing, quote, all indications suggest that several of Twitter's public disclosures regarding its daily active users are either false or materially misleading.
That's Fox Business Network's Kelly O'Grady. Twitter, which wants the deal to go through, could sue the billionaire. America's listening to Fox News.
You're listening to Winning at Life. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. This is live financial news talk radio. If you want to join it's live radio. I'm a wealth advisor by day, founder, CEO of Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority. We are financial advisors. I have offices over in Baton Rouge, Mandeville, Metairie, Louisiana, Gulfport, Mississippi as well. So that's a little bit of background on me. I've been in the industry for decades and been bringing you Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio for over 12 years now. If you're just joining the show, it's a little bit of information. The neat thing about this is it's a live show, and we have a hotline for you to call in, the Winning at Life hotline, and you can ask a question. We had a great call in the last hour. Near the end of that hour, as an example, it was about emergency funds is what the conversation ended up. But spouse was retiring and had neighborhood of $30,000 in the account, what to do with it, and they have no other savings, live paycheck to paycheck. So that's emergency money, and we gave guidance on that. They just weren't sure how to look at those funds from what is now her old job. So if you've got a situation, it could be with Social Security, could be 401k. Last hour we had Wes Blanchard, estate planning attorney, on with us, and it could be some thoughts about that. And I'm going to carry that conversation a little bit further with another topic I wanted to touch on, but we had so much to cover in that hour. And another was the powers of attorney that we talked about on the back end of that. And I think that could have went longer, but you know, the hour ran out and we're in hour 2 of Winning at Life. So if you want to join the conversation, it's 504, I'll start again, 504-2600-995, and you can get you some help. We're streaming live over on Facebook Live and YouTube channel, and there's others. I think we use some service InStream or something that puts us on a lot of streaming networks, but the most popular where we're viewed at is Facebook Live and our YouTube channel. Facebook Live, you can go over to our Winning at Life page and friend us there. Also, my personal page, Gregory Ricks. More about the show, the firm, go to gregoryricks.com. A lot of information there about the services and the team. And if you're looking to get some help, it's one of the places to go. And yeah, I've got another way you can reach us. You ready? The Winning at Life app. Add that to your smartphone. You can text, email, call the show just by taps of the screen, as well as streaming audio or streaming visually like Facebook Live to connect to the show and ask questions as well. And yeah, we're going to talk about money here the next 2 hours, subject to what callers are interested in talking about. I want to talk about a little bit of topics I'm going to roll with here. I'm going to cover some investing stuff and how you should look at it. I recorded a video the other day about should you make adjustments, changes, or get started today and why. You know, and I'm going to make a note here. Should I get started with investing / planning? Making notes here. So, hey, I've got so much running through my head and there's so much to talk about. I will sometimes not keep obligations like this, like, oh, okay, this is what I'm wanting to talk about. And then I'm going to go with the Secure Act, and that is the impact of trust. We're going to talk about that as well from that. And so one thing about should you get started, you know, and that's going to come into decision making and why. And I'm going to also talk about plan versus planning as well. I think that's a good topic to kind of think about there, because it is a plan. If you do a plan, do you have a plan? I think that kind of phrase is overused, and I'm not immune from using it, but it's probably misunderstood, because if you have a plan, that's just the start. Doesn't mean you're done. Last hour with Wes Blanchard, the estate planning attorney that was with us, I kind of talked about an estate plan. That's kind of a start. You know, life changes. Things need to be adjusted and updated. Not as much so in that, but in what we do at our firm on annual strategy meetings, yeah, we're updating that. We're asking questions about it every year or whenever we sit down with business owners or families as well as professionals that we're working with in our firm and our day job also. So once again, if you're looking for a little bit of help and you're new to the show, you know, I've been in the industry for decades. I've got offices in Baton Rouge, Mandeville, Metairie, and Gulfport, two-state area, and we help people across the country. Well, that's what technology allows us to do with Zoom meetings and phones and FedEx and all the DocuSign. All those resources just has opened up everything over the past 12 years we've been doing the show. It's just kind of like crazy when you think back about it. So if you want to join the conversation, as Mike has done, 504-2600-995. We have Mike from Ponchatoula joining us on the Winning at Life hotline. How can we help you, Mike?
Well, Gregory, I have a question. You know, I'm not really happy with a lot of people aren't, with the market recently. I'm down probably 100,000 plus, and I need to find out if there's something I can do to kind of conserve as much as possible. 63 years old. I'm going to retire in a couple of years, so I'm looking for a bit of guidance, I think.
Depending on how that's invested, and maybe we can take a moment to get into that after I give this an initial thought, but one of the things is we don't want to interrupt the compounding of our money. And at what point, if you're wanting to make changes, are you going to make changes in a way that would interfere of catching the upside of this market comeback when it does come back? And history kind of shows us it always does. So if we sell without a plan for that or shift money, are we locking in this reduction in values? And when you think about it, I'll give you a stat, because I was thinking about this before the show. I kind of, in what I do, I'm always thinking about money and planning and data and
job,
stats.
right?
Yeah, it is my job, and I love it. It's just fun being in the information and knowledge business is kind of how I see what we do. And when we look at market downturns over the past 170 years, and I'm pulling this from the Psychology of Money book, this data, we've had it happen 102 times. And there was something else. I've got some other data, but I won't get into a data discussion here while you're on the air with us. But when we look at the market having fallen more than a third, has happened a dozen times over history. So 10% is 102 times. And this, once again, this doesn't happen all the time, but it is disruptive in the short term. In the long term, it's not. So we also don't want to make decisions, but this is hurtful, harmful if you're really focused on stocks. So kind of how are these assets that have gone down $100,000, how are they distributed? How are they invested across asset classes?
Well, we recently changed about a year ago. We changed just before the really downturn. We changed to a more conservative market, but they are all in 401ks. I have a substantial emergency fund of around 100,000 or so, and I have, no mortgage, no payments, no anything. But the primary, I'd say, 30 to 40% are in large stocks, and then we go to medium, and then some growth, and probably 10% or so is very, very conservative. So it's kind of a mixture there. And this is all handled by a fiduciary company.
Okay, that's not a title, right? It's an obligation. People get confused by, they're fiduciaries. No, they have an obligation to do what's in your best interest, and especially on Department of Labor new rules that have gone in July 1. Anybody helping you with your qualified money is under an absolute obligation to give you advice that's in your best interest, not themselves, not the firm, just to be clear on that from that standpoint.
I just didn't want to mention the name.
Yeah, it's okay. We don't have to mention the name, but they are under that obligation. So with that said, in your 401k, you've probably got a mix of stocks and bonds, and it could be more bonds. Here's what's happened this year. Interest rates go up. The seesaw. If interest rates go up, bond values go down. So that's going to take a while to cycle out, but we've kind of had this double whammy, which impacted you more. But if you're going to be there a few years, you're going to be fine. The other thing you might, if you're wanting to, I'd like to hedge a little more, well, maybe increase your money market percentage a little bit. And then at a point, and I'm going to talk about this when we come back from the break, then you might want to push it back to work. But I would not exit completely out of what you're doing at this time. Hopefully that helps, Mike. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. We're going to be back in about 3 minutes to give you more. Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks. Tuesday, July 12th and Thursday, July 14th, 6:30, Keith Young Steakhouse in Madisonville. Reserve your seat now, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Hello, Gumbo Nation. This is Dwayne Stein with Mortgage Gumbo, and I want to thank you. For almost 8 years, you've been listening to me weekly on Mortgage Gumbo, providing you with free education and options advice when it comes to home lending. And while these times may be unique, we've got this. For more than 30 years, I've been mortgage lending in your market, getting clients just like you the best loan at the best rate for the cheapest cost you qualify for. Let's chat. Visit mortgagegumbo.com.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can listen to the show live 6 days a week. And if we're not on at the moment, you can hear a replay of the latest episode of Winning at Life. Whether you're getting a late start on your retirement savings or keeping up with the financial news, Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is there on demand. Hear the Winning at Life show on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
Half of estate planning is having a plan put together for your loved ones when you pass away. The other half of estate planning is dealing with someone else's plan when they pass away. Sometimes they have a great plan, but sometimes you need a little help. Don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me, and we'll make sure you have a plan. Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney in Metairie. What's your plan? Find me at wjblanchardraw.com.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
If you do not have money set aside, you do not have retirement assets, you don't have significant savings, you're thinking, well, when should I turn on Social Security? I'll answer that for you right now. You should probably work as long as you possibly can and as much as you can, because that means you defer Social Security as long as you can up to age 70. And you can keep working past that. That's fine. But at age 70, you have to turn it on because you've maximized it there. And you've created the largest possible payment, and you're going to need all of that.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Your stars need to be wished on. Your skin needs to be kissed on. My eyes, baby, they're fixed on you.
Welcome back. You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. Callers are lighting up. 504-260-0995 to join the conversation. Mike, on that last call, that was a great call, and a lot of people are worried about their money. I believe you should utilize multiple asset classes, and I don't think it's necessarily idea to have some money in cash. Now, we've got 4 asset classes we utilize with clients, and you utilize index-linked investing where there's no downside risk, but we capture upside of the indices. We also like some stocks, but we want to be very efficient and diversified with that strategy. We also like some bonds, but we want to be less interest rate sensitive now. And I like some quantitative tactical investing asset class. And for example, that's asset class that's always seeking where momentum is, because investments are a rotation and everything's not in favor. And something's going to move in favor, but it's not always going to stay in favor. And sometimes with volatility, nothing's in favor, which means that money goes to cash. So in essence, actually, our quantitative tactical asset class is in cash because there's nothing in favor. at this time. So that happens time to time, especially in this environment. And it'll go back to work when something's in favor, that it's the right time to do so in that. So, and I look at that, that's kind of created opportunity money, but for clients, that's kind of peace of mind at that. And it has reduced downside exposure in this environment. One of the things I mentioned, I was going to give some stats, but let's look at a couple things that maybe help in perspective. As of June 30th of this year, the total return of the S&P 500 was down 10.6% for the past trailing 12 months. It's up 10.6% for the last 3 years. It's up 11.3% per year for the last 5 years. And it's up 13% per year for the last 10 years. The S&P 500, and this is based on the S&P 500, which consists of stocks chosen for market size, liquidity, and industry group representation, and that data came from BTN research. So kind of where you kind of say, gosh, it's down right now, but it has been up over time. And let's look at one other set of data. The S&P was down 10.6% total return for the year ending June 30th of 2022 this year. That's the 40th time in the last 400 months that the index has been down at least double digits on a trailing 1 year basis. In the previous 39 times that the index was down at least 10% total return for the previous 12 months, the average return for the next 12 months was a gain of 4.2% total return. So when I could talk about it coming back, yeah, it does historically. Once again, that's from BTN research. And I'll give you more data as this goes along. I think we've got some callers that have reached out to us through the Winning at Life hotline. That number is 504-260-0995. So we're going to take, I believe, Lee is up next from Metairie. How can we help you today, Lee?
Well, I was listening earlier, and I might have missed this. I have some family trusts that I inherited when my parents died. One from my father, one from my mother. They have substantial assets in them. When I die, the trust dissolve, and the assets go to my children. Is there a stepped-up basis for them, or do I need to move those assets out of the trust into my personal name for them to realize the stepped-up basis?
I'm going to go to, gosh, I would like to have Wes in that discussion because it's going to have to do with the structure of that trust from that standpoint, and how's that step up going to be handled?
I have the ability to withdraw without taxes any funds out of the trust. I only have to pay taxes on the trust income on a yearly basis. If the trust doesn't make income, or if my distributions are greater than the income, the excess distributions are tax-free. So I have the ability to move all the Exxon stock out of the trust into my personal name without tax implications.
Yeah, and without my understanding is that step-up basis continues. As it continues on to the next generation, and that is the neat thing about that in that case. But it just needs to be documented along the way, and when somebody is selling that or inheriting and selling, we kind of have to put together a history of that. And that's why I always think it's important that if you inherited stock, and even if it's inside the trust, what was the value of it on the date of death? What was that value of that real estate when they died? And then if it moves on to somebody else, we need that information recorded again. And why? Because sometime in the future they're selling it. And there was a case the other day where somebody's been holding stock forever, and then they decided to sell the stock. And the thing is, it showed a zero cost basis. Well, why did it do that? Well, they never furnished a step-up basis of the stock. So somebody has to figure that out, or you're going to be taxed on the whole value. And it's fine, but what you have to worry about is when the IRS comes in and say, hey, what's going on here? What was the basis? If you get audited and they want to know what that basis is, you need to have that information. It can't just be an arbitrary number. So that's
Well,
work,
that information
work
is all
that
readily available.
Yeah, well, I think you're good.
Good.
But it's just important that you continue that process, and those that you're leaving it to need to understand that as well. Not keep them out the loop, but hey, when I die, here's what's going to happen, and here's some steps you need to take. Because we don't want them to pay more tax than they have to, and errors can be made and things can be misunderstood. I see it happening with real estate where multiple people, and we mentioned to one of them, well, you've got a step-up base. Oh, okay. Well, tell your sister and brother about it. And, well, I did, but they're not interested. Okay, they're just giving away money to Uncle Sam in that case. So I don't quite get that.
So basically what you're telling me is it doesn't matter whether the property is in the trust or in my personal name, my heirs still get the stepped-up basis.
Yeah, I'm going to say subject to language and such there and ownership, but generally that step-up basis continues. And that's the neat thing about that, but it needs to be documented and tracked from that standpoint.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for the call. What assets do not get a step-up basis? IRAs, 401ks, pensions, tax-deferred annuities, certificates of deposit, and money market accounts. So you kind of understand. It's just, the easy to understand is, stocks and real estate makes that easy from that standpoint there. And it's something that needs to be kept up with from that standpoint. Well, let's jump back to the lines. Louise called us at 504-2600-995. Louise from Metairie, how can we help you today?
I have a kind of a basic Social Security question. My husband and I both collect Social Security, and my benefit is higher than his. If I pass away before he does, would he only receive half of my benefit, or how does that work in terms of the amount of money, since I currently am receiving more than he does?
And y'all have been married, I assume, for quite a while, is the assumption.
A long time, yeah.
Okay. And your Social Security benefit is larger than his, and both of your benefits are turned on, correct?
That is correct. Yes, we're both over 70.
Yeah, he's going to get a supplemental difference between your check and his. In essence, he's going to receive a benefit equal to what your check is.
Okay. Well, that's what I thought, but I wanted to be sure because, I didn't know if we needed to do anything else. That's all I needed to know. Thank you so much for the information.
Thank you for listening and calling in to Winning at Life. We got a successful phone call right there. Jason, we're going to take you when we come back from the break because I've got like 50 seconds before, now 40 seconds before we go to a hard break. So we're going to take you when we come back from the break in about, I guess it's about 3.5 minutes. You guys, thanks for the questions. This is fun. I love this, taking these questions. Call us at 504-2600-995. You are listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. We're going to take a break here for a couple minutes.
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
I have a broker. He has no idea what you and I just talked about.
From your 401k to your IRA to your pension to your Social Security to your Medicare.
Hi, Greg. Appreciate your service to the community.
From your ETFs to your precious metals.
Your program helps to ground me. There's some personal, real life there.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and wherever else you can find podcasts, probably.
That's exactly what I needed to know.
Hey, I love your show.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency.
Hi, I'm Gregory Ricks. Today we see rising costs at the grocery store and the gas pump. Have you prepared for rising inflation and higher taxes in your financial plan? Get our guide, Inflation and Your Retirement. Go to GregoryRicks.com/inflation to get our guide today. We are Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
Our firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC, and Gregory Ricks and Associates are not affiliated companies.
Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks. Tuesday, July 19th and Wednesday, July 20th, 6:30, Fleming Steakhouse in Metairie. Reserve your seat now, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
We are living in historic times, extraordinary times. A lot of people need help right now, and I want you to remember your local food bank. Now, here in New Orleans, it's Second Harvest Food Bank. Over in Mobile, they've got Feeding the Gulf. But you can find your local food bank, feedingamerica.org. Food donations, monetary donations, or I know you've got some free time. Find your local food bank. Support your local food bank, especially in times like this. Do some good. feedingamerica.org.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. Elon Musk is calling off his deal to buy Twitter over the company's alleged lack of transparency.
This really all comes down to the number of spam bots on the platform. The reason bots are so important is that Musk has made it known he intends to grow the company's revenue, and that rests on having real active users. In the filing, Musk's lawyers arguing, quote, all indications suggest that several of Twitter's public disclosures regarding its daily active users are either false or materially misleading.
Fox Business Network's Kelly O'Grady, Twitter says they'll sue Musk. We're learning more about the suspected assassin of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe.
An unemployed 41-year-old former Navy-trained member has confessed to the killing. Questions are emerging over security and how the gunman was able to fire a crudely made weapon just a few feet from Japan's most prominent politician.
Fox Business Network's Susan Lee. America is listening to Fox News.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back. Winning at Life. Live financial news talk radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. If you're just joining the show, I've been in financial services for decades, advising for quite a long time as well. And it's kind of what I do in my day job. And for the past 12 years, I've done live radio to help you make better financial decisions, provide you information that you might not have otherwise, pass along knowledge. I kind of look at what I do. I'm in the knowledge business, and that's why to utilize my firm, my team, our team and get some help. And this is a great platform for you to add to your knowledge. And one of the things you can do so is pick up the phone, call the show, ask a question, and we're going to share information with you. 504-2600-995. We've got Jason from the North Shore. He did that as well. Call the Winning at Life hotline. How can we help you, Jason?
Yes, sir. I recently inherited EE bonds. They haven't matured. They're at 23 years. I wanted to cash a couple. I was told I could cash them at my local bank, and that was not the case. A little bit of research I saw online, you could cash them, but I'm really not a fan of that. So I was just seeing what are all my options. How do I cash these EE bonds?
Well, did you take a look at treasurydirect.gov?
Yeah.
Because that's basically, that is the main place for them. For the banking system used to be the main place to deal with these, but now it is Treasury Direct. And there'll be implications of taxes when you do sell that. So if you are owner, you can sell them, and then on the gains of the accounts, you are the taxpayer for that as well. So that's the place to go to, unless you find a local bank that does handle that, and they all don't. So when somebody says, oh, you can go to your bank, well, it depends on the bank. But Treasury Direct is absolutely where you can go and reach out to them, and they've got a research center that gives you all the help that you need on that, and pretty much any question. That's where I go to regarding the e-bonds.
Okay. Yeah, I just wasn't sure about that going online. I would much rather prefer in person, but I guess that's the way of the world now.
Yeah. Now, as far as on note, and I'm here on the site looking at cash redeem a paper bond with a named survivor, Series EE or Series I, go to a financial institution that pays savings bonds and show adequate identification and any supporting documents that may be required before going. It might be helpful to call the financial institution to find out what identification and documents you need. Series HH, your local bond is not authorized to cash these bonds, but can help you submit your transaction. And then they've got another click on cashing Series HH savings bonds. And then Series EE and Series I, those are no longer issued in paper form. The bonds are converted to electronic bonds in Treasury Direct. So, and it continues on and goes through if no survive, but you are the named survivor, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much, that is the future of bonds, is over at treasurydirect.gov. So there'll be some help for you there.
I did, one relative did tell me they have another bank that they did cash theirs at their local bank. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, you could, and it also, some banks are funny about this. They'll, are you a client? Do you have an account here? That might be part of their deal as well in dealing with that. Could well be.
Right. Well, I mean, the bank that I went to, I banked with them, and they couldn't provide that service.
Yeah, they all don't do so on that. So it used to be everybody did, and now a few still do. But you have the online capabilities, and reach out to Treasury Direct. They've got plenty of information.
And they'll cut you checks, and what do I do with the bond? Obviously, I got to send them the bond, or?
Well, the information's there on that. You're basically giving up the bond, or it's going to be converted to electronic. Yeah, I would have to read into the details specifically to that, on transitioning. But you are going to be able to get your money out of it. That's kind of a normal thing that happens. Either the owner's cashing it, even if they've held it for a long time. And there's a lot of people out there with paper bonds. And they used to could go to the bank, or they would get them from the bank, and they no longer can in this case.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the information. Yeah, I'm going to head to the treasury.org. What's the address?
It's treasurydirect.gov. Treasurydirect.gov. And there's a lot of resources there. So if you're wanting to sell or cash in one or buy some more, and those I-bonds are pretty popular right now too because of the rate that they're paying. So, okay, awesome. Thanks for calling, Jason. Have a great weekend.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he had reached out to us through 504-2600-995. And, it even goes, well, where can I get some bonds from? I-bonds and such. Yeah, if you want to, and even give those as gifts as well. Just like what's kind of always been done in the past too. You go to treasurydirect.gov, and there is a lot of resources there in regard to the different types of bonds, or converting, the buying, the sell of that. And it even goes into if there's no survivor is named on the bond and no court is involved. The instructions, they give a whole section according to that. If a court or state law is involved, there's another section to that. Then they go into who pays the taxes and when from that standpoint. So, and that section that we were just looking at is death of a savings bond owner. And it also goes in, this page addresses paper savings bonds. And then there's a note. If the person who died has an online Treasury Direct account, contact the Bureau of Fiscal Service directly, and there's a click link there. So it goes into the next part is for a paper bond owned by someone deceased. The page shows you how to determine who owns the bond, the options you have in each of these cases. A survivor is named on the bond, no survivor is named, and no court is involved, or a court or state is involved, and who pays taxes when. So it kind of takes you through the processes there. And yeah, probably a little bit of work. You'd probably have been, I just would have liked to went to the bank and walked out with some cash, and not quite that easy anymore, but it's a great resource there and one to keep up with this. And, in talking with the other caller regarding step-up basis, and if you're leaving bonds behind, and the person that left this behind might not have realized the world has kind of shifted in this way to where treasurydirect.gov is the resource center for that. They just like, I bought these 20 years ago at my bank. I do that every week, or might have had that done through coming out their checking account automatically, or any number of ways to acquire that. And just, it's saved money sitting in a drawer or safety deposit box, and then all of a sudden it's left to somebody else. My kind of point is this: if you're leaving something behind and you're okay with them knowing, I would kind of share instructions of here's some guidance. Here's the process. Here's my advice for when you take this over in the future. And that could be if you're leaving behind real estate, if you're leaving behind bonds, if you're leaving behind stocks. And if you'd like it to go well, give some guidance, even if it's something you do in writing. You don't say, well, I don't want to talk to them about it. I want to tell them, and I really don't want them to know because I might change and do. Yeah, okay, that's good. I understand. Maybe leave some instructions in writing. What's the process? How would you like to go? At our firm, we're very, very process driven. We look at, if there's 3 steps, there's a documented process to it. And the guided planning system is a trademark proprietary process that we take clients through financial planning, and planning is ongoing work.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
You can email me info@gregoryricks.com if you're seeking some help. You're listening to this show and kind of like, yeah, I want to know more about the Invest 50/50. I want to know more. Come into the office. We've got one in Metairie, Mandeville, Gulfport, and Baton Rouge. So one number to call, and you could be in Alabama, Texas, Florida, and we have a huge audience in the southeast of the U.S., and we can do business online through Zoom. They got FedEx, Zoom, e-documents, all that kind of stuff going on.
Gregory Ricks and Associates. Find us at GregoryRicks.com or call 504-832-9200. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Oh, Rover, you have fleas again? Prevent fleas and ticks from setting up shop in your backyard. Those bloodsuckers can bite up to 400 times a day and carry nasty diseases like typhus and tapeworms. Give Rover some relief and contact Mosquito Joe. Their mosquito control services also kill and prevent fleas and ticks. Let Mosquito Joe be your first line of defense against those blood-sucking pests. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
Hey, I love your show.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
At the core, I always tell people, I'm not here to make you rich. I'm here to make sure you don't run out of money, that you don't run out of income. That's how I look at my job. Over time, saving, making good decisions can make you rich. But what you have is, what is your core thing? Your core thing should be making money. And your core thing, you should set aside money to work elsewhere. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to put it to risk. You could put it to safety. But your core thing makes you money, or you tell me your core thing is the market, day trading, or gambling in the market. It shouldn't be. You should have a core thing that makes you money, and you peel some off for the future when you're done with your core.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
If you got a kiss on your lips, but you're looking for somebody to take.
Hey, y'all. Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. I'm your host. On the break, we our sponsor, Mosquito Joe. I appreciate not having Mosquito Joe. So this it's a firm. They're a show sponsor, but they also take care of my space when outdoors. I was on the swing yesterday evening. I'm not bothered by those critters, and I notice I've got less critters out there. But I'd say it's a real deal. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com if you want to maybe have a chance to get rid of some of those things buzzing around like that. I think some people are allergic to those things too as well. So, hey, back to business here. Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. In about 10 minutes, we're going to be at the top of the hour for our break, and 6 minutes into the next hour, we're coming back with hour 3 of today's show. Some of markets that we're in is hour 2, and we've got other markets joining us for hour 3, and that's their hour of the Saturday show. So we're going to have a really big audience and probably callers calling in as well, like Mike is, and I think Steve is showing up on the board, getting in line for a call. And how are they doing that? They're dialing 504-260-0995. We've got Mike from Biloxi up next. How can we help you, Mike?
Hi, Gregory.
Hey.
Thanks for taking my call. It's a Social Security question, and I'm a retired firefighter, and I receive a pension, and I do receive some Social Security because I work part-time through the years, and I had enough quarters to, draw Social Security, but it wasn't a whole lot. And it's enough to pay for my Medicare, and I have a small amount that goes into my checking account every month. And the thing is, my wife, who passed away a couple of years ago, her pension was a lot bigger than mine. And I was wondering if I could draw on her pension, on her Social Security, to increase mine.
Have you reached out and spoke to Social Security about that since she has passed?
No, I haven't. And the only thing, the reason that my son was telling me that he thinks I would be able to, to draw on hers, that's why I'm calling. But no, I haven't. The only time I talked to them was when I drew my Social Security, and they did reduce what I get because of my pension. I didn't get the full amount that I was supposed to get. It was reduced. So I'm wondering if my pension would disqualify me from getting a larger amount from her pension.
So for the listeners, what Mike is talking about actually is the windfall elimination provision, because your employer, you were not participating in Social Security, so it impacted your Social Security benefit. For one of the carve-outs for that is having 30 years of substantial earnings opts you out of that reduction. And then so his is less. So the other thing is looking at is, how does this law affect spouses, widows, or widowers? And if you're receiving retirement or disability pension from a federal, state, or local government based upon your work, you didn't pay into Social Security, they may reduce your Social Security spouse or widows or widowers benefits. The fact is, and they've got a fact sheet here, which is probably something for you to go look at, and it's called the Government Pension Offset. And for example, if a woman worked and earned her own $800 monthly Social Security benefit, but also was due a $500 spouse's benefit on her husband's record, they couldn't pay that spouse's benefit because their own benefit offsets it. So before the enactment of the government pension offset law, if that same woman was a government employee who didn't pay into Social Security and earned an $800 government pension, there was no offset. They had to pay her a full spouse's benefit and a full government pension. I know we're getting into the weeds here, but one of the things always for everybody listening, when you're in doubt, call Social Security and ask them. They have an obligation to give you the most you can get. And if you want to drill down on this in particular to your specific situations, that is something I always ask people to call my office for at my day job, Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority. Call the office and we'll help you work through this on some of the questions to ask and to help understand that, because sometimes you might not get somebody that's as detailed oriented. But that document, you can go to, it's over at ssa.gov, or use your search engine and go to, and just type in government pension offset. The other document is the windfall elimination. So when you pull that up, you should have a PDF or a document pull off that you can click in to give you that information. But once again, When in doubt, or am I getting the most? Call Social Security. Call their 1-800 number and get a conversation started from that way. And then they'll give you what they need to take a look at that. And hopefully that helps you, Mike. Is that good for you today?
Okay. Yeah, great. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to Winning at Life and calling into the Winning at Life hotline, 504-2600-995. We have Steve from Madison, Alabama calling in. How can we help you today, Steve?
Yeah, Gregory, thanks for taking my call. I'm approaching 59 and a half. And so at that point in August, roughly, I'm going to be able to access my 401k. And of course, I have a Roth portion and a company matching portion, which is the traditional. And what I'm wanting to do is do an in-service rollover, which they allow, to try and get some of that company portion, which is tax deferred, roll that into an IRA, my traditional IRA that I have. And then shortly after that, follow that by a conversion to a portion of it either into my IUL, Index Universal Life, or into a Roth. So those steps I can do. My question is, and I think I know the answer, but does that poison, what I call poison, my traditional IRA for future backdoor Roths? Right now, that's all I use it for, is I put money in there, $7,000, in there, which I'm allowed to based on my age, and I immediately turn around and convert it into my Roth. So I believe it does, and if it does, which I think it does, then can I, in this final year, let's say that I'm going to do this, can I do that conversion? Can I do that in-service rollover into there? But before that, can I do my last backdoor Roth, $7,000, and then immediately convert it over to my Roth, and then go draw money out of my 401k sometime after that, and do the conversion after that, do in-service rollover, and then convert it, and then realizing I can't use that anymore in the future, more than likely for the backdoor Roth method, that I can use it as a funnel into my Roth or IUL, whatever I want to do as I draw that money out over the next couple, 3 years to get that tax-deferred money out of there.
Okay, a lot to unpack there. Let me get through this. I've got about 2 minutes to answer that question. Listeners, backdoor Roth is his income is too high for him to make contributions directly to a Roth IRA. So what he's doing is putting that money in a traditional IRA and then converting it to a Roth right after, because there's no limit of income limit on Roth conversions. So he's thinking, and that means he doesn't have any other traditional IRA. If you did, then it's going pro rata, which really makes, then the question is, well, why are you doing it then? Because it just really isn't going to be efficient. But if you move money over from your 401k into a rollover IRA, which is a variation of a traditional account, that is going to muddy that water. And basically, like, why would you do the backdoor Roth then? Because it's going to be pro rata. So the other question is, do it before. But now you've got a technical question I would have to research to make sure, because IRS is funny about these things. So if you do it and then the back end of this year you move money into a rollover money, which gives you that account, I would like to research and do verification that you're not going to kind of mess that deal up by doing that in the same year that you did a backdoor Roth. I've not had that situation, but it does kind of mess that up. The other point you're making about rolling money into an IUL, that's not happening. That is a taxable event. So wherever you take money from a 401k or an IRA and you're going to put it in an IUL, that's an Index Universal Life, that is a taxable event. Keep that in mind. Steve, I'm going to have to jump right here. We got a hard break. We're going to be back in about 6 minutes. So if you want to call back and continue, be happy to take care of you. You're listening to Winning at Life. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. We're going to be back in a few minutes, but if you want help from my firm, the office number is 504-832-9200, GregoryRicks.com. We'll be back in a few minutes.
From the Gregory Ricks and Associates Wealth Management Studios, WRNO FM, New Orleans, an iHeart radio station.
A sit-in outside the White House. I'm Pam Huso, Fox News. One day after President Biden signed an executive order to protect access to abortion, pro-choice demonstrators want more.
The president is limited in what he can do on abortion. One problem is the Hyde Amendment. It bars federal money from going to abortion services. But the president has a megaphone, and he's intent on making this an issue in the midterms. The president says the Supreme Court is a problem. He wants to make the Supreme Court a wedge going into the fall. The question, though, is whether or not the abortion issue will outweigh the economy.
Fox's Chad Pergram. Trade, tariffs, and Taiwan. Those issues were discussed when Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with his Chinese counterpart at the G20 summit in Indonesia. Russia's war against Ukraine also came up.
Blinken says he expressed doubts that China is remaining neutral concerning the war, despite what Beijing is saying, while also acknowledging the impact of any potential U.S.-Chinese disagreements or conflict of ideas.
The relationship between the United States and China is highly consequential.
The Chinese foreign minister said that American policy has been derailed by what he called a misperception of China as a threat.
Fox's Kevin Uretsky. A funeral for former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe will be held Tuesday. He was assassinated at a political event.
An unemployed 41-year-old former Navy-trained member has confessed to the killing. Japanese media reporting that he was motivated to kill Shinzo Abe after his mother went bankrupt, donating to a religious group that he believed Abe was promoting. Questions are emerging over security and how the gunman was able to fire a crudely made weapon.
Fox's Susan Lee. America's listening to Fox News.
Jason in the House, the Jason Chaffetz podcast. There is always someone doing something stupid somewhere. Dive deeper than the headlines and the party lines as I take on American life, politics, and entertainment. Join me, Jason Chaffetz, every Wednesday as I shed light on the news and make some predictions along the way. You never know who will drop in. Subscribe now on foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts.
Connect to Fox News Audio and the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
The situation has gone from bad to worse in Sri Lanka, where protesters have broken into the prime minister's private residence and set it on fire. He had resigned earlier today. There are continued calls for the president to resign. A handful of border agents could be suspended without pay for a couple of weeks following an incident last year involving migrants from Haiti. After an extensive review, it's been determined that the agents on horseback never used their reins or whips on migrants, but they did commit other infractions, including using derogatory language.
All they're doing is peeling back more and more the ability of the Customs and Border Protection to do their job. And it's demoralizing to them. It's more dangerous to them.
House Republican John Katko. The water has receded, but the damage caused by epic flooding at Yellowstone National Park will stick around for a while. Replacing washed-out roads could take 3 to 5 years. Temporary fixes, though, are expected to be in place within months. That's according to Yellowstone's superintendent. From a national park to a national pastime.
Running with the Bulls is not for the faint of heart. The big event in the city of Pamplona, Spain, popularized by Ernest Hemingway's 1926 novel The Sun Also Rises, draws tens of thousands of visitors from around the world. It's back following a 2-year hiatus due to COVID. Saturday's third run of the San Fermin Festival was marred by the event's first gorings of the year. 2 men were injured, 8 runners were gored in 2019, and 16 people have been killed since the tradition began back in 1910. 10. But if you think it's bad for the participants, it's worse for the bulls. The 6 animals that run each morning are killed by professional bullfighters later that same day.
That's Fox's Karen McHugh. I'm Pam Huso, and this is Fox News.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I'm your host, Gregory Ricks, a financial advisor here to answer your questions and help you win with your money.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Simple information from good people.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Could this be your Social Security, your 401k, pension, lump sum, your debt, student debt, credit cards?
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years. Sometimes I'll pull over to the side of the road and just listen.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Welcome. You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. If you're a regular joining in this hour, welcome back. If you're a newbie, this is live financial news talk radio. We do this for you every Saturday, bring you live financial news talk, insights, helpful ideas, and probably the biggest thing, impact of the past 12 years of doing this show is you, the caller, participating in the show with your calls. And you can do so by calling us at 504-260-0995 to join the conversation. Yeah, if you want to talk about Social Security, 401ks, investing, I-bonds, we've had all kind of calls across those areas this morning, even estate planning, a step-up basis. And I'm going to circle back on one of the calls we had earlier in a minute regarding the government pension offset, or it has to do with the windfall elimination provision, and that's has to do when you work at a job and you're not participating in Social Security. Yeah, I know it's a little complicated. We're going to talk about that here in a moment, but I want to bring you up to speed on a lot of things. We're going to talk about money today. I'm going to give you some insight today on my take on a few things of what's going on in the markets, plan versus planning, and if you're afraid to do something yet, go forward, get a plan in place, or put money to work. We're going to talk about that, the why you should do something now instead of waiting. And if you're fearful or worried about losses, we had one of those callers a little while ago about I'm down 100,000. What should I do? Well, I'll give you a real quick answer to that. Don't interrupt the compounding of your money. You could be fearful of what's going on, but also in another way, do not cause yourself to miss the upside of what's coming. And that's a simple answer, but it is a bit complicated. I'm going to help you with that this hour also. Let me write that down to make sure, because we get callers calling in, and I'm going to write down here, don't miss the upside. There we go. Got it here on my notes to get going forward here. If you want to join the conversation, it's real easy, 504-260-0995. If you've got a question, a situation, you want to bounce some ideas off of me. you know, I'd say, you know what? That's the added value of the show. Actually, of what I do in my day job, it's added value at the firm, you know, and that's where clients that work with us are advocates of helping their friends and family, not just advocates of the firm, but if a family member or a friend has a financial decision or a big decision or changes coming, they feel compelled to have them to reach out to my firm. And my firm is Gregory Ricks and Associates, the Total Wealth Authority. We're a wealth advisory firm. I'm a wealth advisor. I'm CEO and founder, and we have a number of wealth advisors on the team and a great customer service and support team as well. And one of the things you can do is reach out to us and get some help on that. If you've got a question, you don't have to become a client to get some help, to get a conversation started. It's not a sales process. I'm not in the sales business. If I had to define it, I'm in the information business. And the office number, and no matter if you want to go to the Baton Rouge, Louisiana office, the Mandeville, Louisiana office, Metairie, Louisiana, Gulfport, Mississippi, and we help clients and individuals and families and business owners across the country because of technology. We can do a Zoom meeting. You can do a phone call. That's what e-documents, FedEx, and all that stuff is for. Oh, and emails as well. So we can start with a conversation and go from there. But there's only one number you need to utilize to start that conversation, 504-832-9200. That's how you reach our office and connect to our team. You could do that now, and a team member will follow back up with you on Monday. That information will be taken. We have live people to take that information from you right now. The website is gregoryricks.com. A couple other things for you. We're streaming live over on Facebook. You can like it. No, you can follow us on Facebook Live at my personal site, Gregory Ricks, or the Winning at Life Facebook page. So we're streaming on Facebook Live, on our YouTube channel, and audio streaming. Reach out to us through the Winning at Life app. You can text, email, call through the app and connect to streaming, be part of the Winning at Life Nation, get updates on what's going on, the Wednesday Q&A, and check out the Ask Gregory podcast. Go to your how you do your podcasts and connect to us that way and stream some of the talks that I give. Peggy has called us at 504-260-0995. Peggy from New Orleans, how can we help you today?
Hi, I have a quick question. I am 62, and I understand you can, if you've been married and divorced, if you've been married long enough, you can collect on your ex's Social Security.
Yeah, that would be 10 years. 10 years.
All right, that's already taken care of. But if I'm of the age to collect Social Security and he's not, would I have to wait until he's that old? Because
No.
I'm older than he is.
Yeah.
So I'll reach the Social Security age 7 years before he does.
Yeah. Here's kind of the technical part of that. He needs to be of Social Security age for you to turn on that benefit. He does not have to turn it on, and he doesn't know, and you don't need to discuss it with him. But it's your right to draw on his benefit. The 10 years is how long you needed to have been married to him.
Right.
And he needs to be of Social Security age. And you qualify to start on that benefit. Now, being you're below full retirement age, it will reduce your benefit by turning it on. And let's say next year he turns 62, you'll be 63. You're going to get a reduction in benefits from that standpoint.
Okay, so, all right, well, I wasn't planning on taking it until I was at full retirement age, but
Oh, that'll be awesome.
he won't be.
Yeah,
Right.
and that'll
If
give
he
you
won't be
whichever
full retirement
benefit
age.
is larger is what you're actually turning on by that rule as well. You're listening to Winning at Life. We'll be right back in a few minutes. Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Riggs. Tuesday, July 12th and Thursday, July 14th, 6:30, Keith Young Steakhouse in Madisonville. Reserve your seat now, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRiggs.com. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
What's cooking, Gumbo Nation? This is Dwayne Stein, your local mortgage lender. Bread prices up. Milk is up. Inflation way up. I know this can all be overwhelming. That's why you need to know I got you. Tens of thousands have trusted me and my team with their largest investment, the home. So while things look cloudy, let's work to make sure when the dust settles, your family is ready to take advantage. Visit mortgagegumbo.com.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can hear the Ask Gregory podcast, where you'll find episodes based on a financial topic. So if you're looking for help on a specific situation, there's a good chance you'll find it on the Ask Gregory podcast, including episodes on 401ks, taxes, stocks, Social Security, gold, and whether or not you should buy an RV. Hear the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
2 questions. Do you have a pulse? Do you own anything? If you said yes to both, you probably need a will. You may even need a trust. We all know a lawyer. Do you know someone who specializes in estate planning? Do you really trust the husband of your sister's friend from college? Or would you feel better putting your family in the hands of the estate planning attorney of the Total Wealth Authority? I'm Wes Blanchard. What's your plan? Offices in Metairie and at wjblanchardlaw.com.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
What we found through history, looking at the past 90 years, most fund managers don't outperform or perform as well as the indexes. Using indexing, historicals teach us skew a higher return. And yes, there's bad stocks in the S&P 500 as it looks right now, and yet the index is up. I like to use index ETFs because those are much lower expense ratios. We try our best in managing our portfolios to avoid trading costs, and we know I've been doing this for 30 years. I've studied trading strategies. You're not going to outsmart the indexes. You may get lucky, you may get unlucky.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
You're listening to Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio with Gregory Ricks. I am your host, Gregory. Welcome to the show. If you want to join the conversation, I'm going to pick up more on Peggy's question right here because there's some details that you probably didn't catch that I mentioned there, but we're going to make sure you understand that as well. It's really some important details to those divorce benefits, which could turn into survivor benefits as well. But if you want to join the conversation, ask a Social Security question, retirement, investment, 504-2600-995. And yes, I am here to help, and I enjoy the heck out of this. So she was talking, the question was once again, is drawing on her divorced husband's record is what she was talking about. Let's talk about that. They've been divorced. They were married for 2 years, and it's been 2 years since they divorced if she was eligible for benefits from that standpoint. So if she owns benefit, if the wife's own benefit is higher than her spousal benefit, there will be no change in Social Security. So the advantage to draw on his record, that is if the spousal benefit, this is while he's living, it would be a spousal benefit. So if the spousal benefit is larger than her record, she would be receiving an increase if it's larger. So if her benefit is higher than her spousal benefit, there will be no change in Social Security. If she hasn't started receiving Social Security yet, her decisions about when to start would be based on the usual factors, such as health status, life expectancy, need for income, and so forth, without regard to survivor benefits. The important planning issue is that financially, she is now on her own, and she probably has a lot of years ahead of her. So if she and her husband had been married for more than 10 years before divorcing, she may qualify for a spousal benefits based on her ex-husband's work record, as long as she is at least 62 and still unmarried. When she files, she'll be paid her own benefit first. If her divorced spouse benefit would be higher, she'll receive a spousal add-on so that the combined benefit equals the spousal benefit. This may be 32.5 to 50% of his primary insurance amount, depending on when she files. If she was born before January 2nd of 1954, she may restrict her application to her divorced spouse benefit, even if her own benefit is higher. Remember, that's before January 2nd of 1954. And then she'll receive 50% of her ex-husband's primary insurance amount, while her own benefit bills delayed credits to age 70. It's an excellent strategy for a divorced working woman, as it allows them to take full advantage of their divorced spouse benefit and earn maximum delayed credits on their own record, which will give them higher income at an older age. If she and her husband have been divorced for at least 2 years, she does not need to apply for his benefits in order to receive hers. He does not need to be eligible for benefits and he does need to be, let's just repeat that, he does need to be eligible for benefits and be at least 62. So you heard me get that clarification and gave her that clarification. She does not need to know his earnings history or even his whereabouts, and doesn't need to discuss it, ask for permission. He'll never know, because it has zero impact on that. Even if he had multiple wives, each for 10 years, and they're going to utilize his work record, he doesn't need to know, doesn't need to give permission. Now here, what if the ex-husband dies? The survivor benefits for the divorced spouses are the same as for widows, providing that the marriage lasted at least 10 years. The same benefit formulas, age requirement, and actuarial reductions apply. Now, keep in mind, if she does it before full retirement age, that acronym I use is FRA, full retirement age, she's locking in, even if it's a scenario of turning it on early, you're locking in that reduction going forward there. So just keep that in mind as well as a part of the decision. And look, Social Security is complicated and so many scenarios and decisions to make. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to turn it on before FRA, especially if you need the money. But you have to have consideration of your life expectancy. You also have to have consideration of your health, correlated assets to make the best decision. Because what you don't want to do is make the wrong decision, cause a reduction that you lock in when you could have had more benefits and you didn't need to turn it on early. It can impact you by tens of thousands of dollars. And one of the things, especially for women, is they're going to live longer than the men. They have a longer life expectancy. And everybody's going to live longer. As a percentage, you're going to live longer. So you're going to draw benefits for a longer period of time potentially. So you need to make a good decision in that. Otherwise, you're leaving money on the table. So if it isn't like, oh, I need it to make ends meet, I need it right now. Okay, that is a big impact. Also, health. Like if you're in bad health, you say, there's no way I'm living a long time with what I have going on and I'm dealing with. Just using that phrase, that's a consideration of why to turn it on early as well. But to understand you are eligible for benefits, and if you don't have a large Social Security earnings record, and that ex-spouse may pay more, even if it was, say, an ex-wife for the guy and she's always made more income, would have a larger benefit. It's something to consider. So if you are divorced or getting a divorce, got a divorce, make sure you keep up with those records and that information. Don't lose their Social Security number, and the divorce information and those documents. Get, that old marriage license. Don't get rid of it. Don't get rid of the death certificate or divorce certificate, all that paperwork. Don't keep up with that so you have that information, because it can impact and improve your Social Security benefits down the road. So hopefully that helps. Let's jump back to a caller I had last hour, and he had called about he's drawing a pension. He didn't participate that much in Social Security, but he did get enough credit. So what that is when you work for a government entity, typically it is that you're not participating in Social Security, but you have a pension, it's going to impact your Social Security benefits. And there's a document online about that. And if you're in that situation and you're like, I don't pay into Social Security at my job. Well, you need to be aware of what's coming at retirement. You're thinking you're going to get Social Security. You may not. You probably aren't. There's a document called the Windfall Elimination Provision. And one of the exceptions is having 30 or more years of substantial earnings. Gives you an exception to that. So the caller was asking about the spousal. His spouse passed, and might her benefits be larger than his? And then that's called the government pension offset. And here's the paragraph on that document I'm going to read to you. So how much will my Social Security benefits be reduced if my spouse passes? Social Security, they'll reduce your Social Security benefits by 2/3 of your government pension. In other words, if you get a monthly civil service pension of $600, 2/3 of that, or $400, must be deducted from the Social Security benefits. For example, if you're eligible for a $500 spouse's, widow, or widower's benefit from Social Security, you'll get $100 a month from Social Security. $500 minus the $400 equals $100. If 2/3 of your government pension is more than that Social Security benefit, your benefit could be reduced to zero. So that caller, Mike, in the last hour, based on the spousal situation and the size of his pension, there might not be any. So he might be getting more from his own Social Security benefit, even though it's reduced. So it depends on the size of that spouse's survivor benefit. If it's significantly larger, yes, than his pension check, 2/3 of his pension check, then he might get an increase there. I didn't get into the numbers, but that document to look at for those that this may impact is your government pension offset. One of the things we found over the years here on the Winning at Life radio show, So people are calling in and they're not even aware that this impact is coming for them, or like, why is this happening? If you've got a financial situation, you'd like a little bit of help, a little bit of guidance, direction, call 504-260-0995 and we'll help you with that. We'll be right back. You're listening to Winning at Life.
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
I am near retirement, and I wish I would have been listening to y'all for the last couple of years.
Learn the ins, outs, do's, don'ts, rules, and tools of the financial world.
I have a broker. He has no idea what you and I just talked about.
From your 401k to your IRA to your pension to your Social Security to your Medicare.
Hi, Greg. Appreciate your service to the community.
From your ETFs to your precious metals.
Your program helps to ground me. There's some personal, real life there.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and wherever else you can find podcasts, probably.
That's exactly what I needed to know.
Hey, I love your show.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. The firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency.
What does your ideal retirement look like? Is it traveling the world, fishing whenever you want, spending time with the grandkids, or maybe you don't know yet? Hi, I'm Gregory Ricks. Let us help you plan the retirement you deserve. Give us a call or go to GregoryRicks.com to schedule a visit. We are Gregory Ricks & Associates, the Total Wealth Authority.
The firm provides insurance services, investment, and advisory services. Offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management, LLC. Gregory Ricks & Associates are not affiliated companies.
Concerned about market volatility, rising inflation, higher taxes? How could it impact you? Make sure you're still on track to reach your financial goals and win at retirement.
Wine, Wisdom, and Food with Gregory Ricks. Tuesday, July 19th and Wednesday, July 20th, 6:30, Fleming Steakhouse in Metairie. Reserve your seat now. 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Cancer Crusaders has been raising funds for cancer research in New Orleans since 1976. Cancer Crusaders, Inc. is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization with no administrative overhead. Cancer Crusaders has raised over $4 million so far, and all of that money goes to the Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center Foundation and the Tulane Cancer Center in New Orleans, where they are literally working on a cure for cancer. Get involved, donate, volunteer, or attend a fundraiser. CancerCrusadersLA.com.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. Growing outrage over disciplinary measures for border agents that were cleared of charges that they whipped Haitian migrants while on horseback last September.
They had to do something to justify the fact that they were found innocent of the charges of strapping and whipping people. They weren't. So now they concoct this 500-page report to trash these people. And at this point, I'm not sure any Border Patrol agent would ever do anything to try and stop the flow of people coming across the border.
GOP Congressman John Katko of New York on Fox. That CBP report found that at least one of the agents reportedly used derogatory language towards some of those migrants. 23-year-old Elena Rybakina beats Ons Jabeur 3-6, 6-2, 6-2 in the Wimbledon final today to become the first tennis player from Kazakhstan to win a Grand Slam singles championship. America is listening to Fox News.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
And a little bit of chicken fried. Cold beer on a Friday night. A pair of jeans.
Hey, y'all. It's a great weekend. Opportunity is out there. Yeah, not happy with everything that's going on, but there's opportunity. It's going to get better. in talking to clients, public events, talking with you, the radio show listeners, and people that I talk with that are show listeners, and people that come into my firm, there's worry. And I always kind of say, the pendulum has swung way to one side, and you know what? It's going to swing back. Why? History tells us that. Yeah, gosh, negative news aggravates me, and gosh, I don't like seeing values go down at all. Just so you know, I'm probably conservative to moderate as an investor. No, and you probably think, oh, Gregory's aggressive. No, I'm not. I don't believe aggressive gets you more. I've got a lot of data and a research, and I do a lot of that on a daily basis. You're listening to me because of knowledge. You work with us at our firm because of what all we know. And I know it's going to get better. Why? History tells me that. The market always comes back. Here, let me give you a stat here. And Dennis, hang in there a minute. We're going to take you next. So we'll be back going to the callers here in a moment. But I wanted to share this with you. The S&P 500 has been down at least 20% in total return for the trailing year at the end of 20 months in the last 400 months. So the S&P 500 has been down at least 20% for the trailing year at the end of 20 months in the last 400 months. Most recently, June 30th of 2009. In the 20 times, you get that, in the 20 times that the index has been down at least 20 months and we're looking at the past 12 months in total return, the average return for the next 12 months was a gain of 17.1%. I'll do the math for you. 400 months, that's 33 and a third years. So it tells you, and I talk about known risk. We're getting a 10% correction every couple years. In a bit longer period than that, we're probably getting a 20% pullback. But if you look on a calendar year basis, how often does it happen that the year finishes down that much on a calendar year? Yeah, it's not very often. But this kind of changes perspective. Yeah, we have this kind of movement. It's not a surprise, but yeah, it really hurts if all your money's in stocks. But when it happens, the average return for the next 12 months was a gain of 17.1%. Takes me into the topic. You don't want to interrupt the compounding. You don't want to if you go make short-term decisions, what are you doing? You're locking in losses. Don't lock in losses. You need to be invested properly, and you need to avoid the interruption of the compounding of your money. With that said, if you want to call 504-260-0995 like Dennis from Baton Rouge has done, welcome to the show, Dennis. How can we help?
Hey, Gregory. You're right. It is a beautiful day today.
It is.
I have a follow-up question about that discussion I just heard about the spousal benefits. And I thought I had heard you say previously, sometime in the past, that the marriage had to last at least 10 years.
Correct.
And the reason I'm asking this question is because I have a sister-in-law that was married to the same guy like 3 times. Neither of the marriages lasted 10 years. The combined 3 marriages total up to 10 or more years. And she's got somebody at the Social Security telling her that she's going to be able to get those spousal benefits. Is that correct?
They told her she would be able to?
Yes.
Yeah, well, they are the ultimate authority. But if she has total time in for 10 years is what it takes. It doesn't kill the clock on that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So
But you've got to have 10 years married to that person.
Okay. Okay. And it doesn't have to be consecutive.
No. But let's change the question. What if she was married to 3 different guys and they all totaled 10 years? No, that doesn't get it done in that way.
Okay.
But
yeah,
gosh, that is, well, and if that was her purpose to get 10 years in, she succeeded. If that was the purpose. Otherwise, we kind of wonder why. Just saying.
Right. Okay. Well, that's
Awesome.
what I need to know.
Yeah. Thanks for calling. Appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Greg.
Yeah. That's kind of lighthearted take on that from that standpoint. Liz Taylor was famous for marrying a bunch of guys, and one of them she did marry, I believe, twice. Could have been more on that. Interesting. And I've had conversations where it's kind of like, which one? I was married to 2 different men for 10 years and divorced after 10 years each time. So then that person would have choices in that case from that standpoint. Okay, so let's circle back to where I was on interrupting the compounding of your money. And it's really important. And if you're kind of looking at year to date, yeah, we're not a trailing 12 months. The market is down a little bit more than 10% on the last trailing 12 months in that case. Where's my document here? Yeah, that's 1 year trailing. We're at 10.6%. So we've not even approached the 20%, but on a year to date, yeah. But, could this be the bottom? It possibly could. I think there's probably some more pain to come, and here's why. And I think the market's already kind of priced this in. The U.S. economy is already in a recession. And this is an article by from Zacks, and it's Mitch on the markets, but I'm just giving you a little data they're furnishing. U.S. GDP contracted at an annual rate of minus 1.6% in the first quarter of this year. And according to the latest GDP Now estimates from the Atlanta Fed, the economy contracted another 2.1% in quarter 2. The Atlanta Fed's GDP Now tool is not known for precise accuracy, but all the signs point to 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, the technical definition of a recession. And I've said I felt we are in a recession, and it's kind of, and so does the markets, and they've priced that in. If this data holds up and hindsight confirms a recession in the first half of 2022, it would be vastly different from the past 12 recessions the country has experienced since World War II. In every post-war recession, economic output fell while unemployment went up. And that is not happening yet. So with that said, I think unemployment is going to start going up in the back half of the year. I think change is coming to those dynamics. And these workers that have worked the past decade and experienced a reducing unemployment rate, which gave them position of strength and job hunting demands and flexibility. Tighten your seatbelts up. Change is coming because unemployment. Companies are going to have to tighten up. Why is there a recession? Because the GDP is reducing. Buying is reducing. Companies are tightening the belt. So you might want to tighten yours as there is a reset company and companies that are surviving on borrowed money that are inefficient in the economy. The recession cleans that up too. they're not going to survive, and the people working for them aren't going to be working for them as they go away. So having an understanding of that and what's coming, yeah, recession has to come around occasionally because we need to clean things up. Hey, let's talk some more. 504-260-0995. You're listening to Winning at Life. We'll be back in a couple more minutes.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
I do a whole lot of reading daily, and man, some of the paths it takes me down, and next thing I know, I'm like, I feel like I hit a treasure trove of articles that were just connecting. I'd move from one to the next, and what I do with some of those that I think are really probably worth you taking a look at, I've got a news blog of stuff I read that gets posted. They probably add an article a day, but I read a lot more than that. Some of those I talk about on the show. This is serious stuff right here, but it's GregoryRicks.com, and go to the news blog tab to get a feel of what I look at.
Gregory Ricks and Associates, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Mom, it stinks.
Hush, I'm almost done. All right, now you're safe from bugs in the backyard. Don't let mosquitoes ruin your outdoor fun. Call Mosquito Joe today. When you call, they come out and they do the spraying. Mosquito Joe's time-release capsule lasts for about a month. No more sticky bug sprays. Take back your backyard. NewOrleans.mosquitojoe.com. NewOrleans.mosquitojoe.com.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
My mother just inherited a couple of annuities.
If you could explain the difference between a government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision is.
You now make too much income to contribute to a Roth IRA.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
You all are so good.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
Can you raise your payout on your Social Security after full retirement by continuing working and paying in more? Do you get a raise for that?
Remember, the core thing is Social Security benefits you receive are based on your best 35 years. If you have less than 35 years, those are filled in with zeros. So if you're making more money this year that replaces, say, that first year of the 35, it is inflation adjusted. That will improve your benefit. And they reset that, they recalculate that every year. So even while you're drawing benefits, you could well be incrementally improving your benefits.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Welcome back. Winning at Life, live financial news talk radio. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. We've got about 10 minutes left in the show. Hey, let me give you a stat. You know, I was talking about the recession. In the past 170 years, we've had 33 recessions that lasted a cumulative 48 years. So, yeah, they don't happen all the time, but it's part of the cycle. Yeah, we'd like it to never happen. Like, yeah, I'd like the market to never go down, but it does. But, you know, then also perhaps just maybe you look at it as opportunity as well. That might be a good way to look at it. I like opportunities, so I definitely want to keep that into the mix and to consider that in the going forward as well. So knowing that the market's down, it's going to come back, you know, one of the key things is to consider is your asset mix. The invest 50-50 methodology that we utilize that's inside of our guided planning system, and both are trademark proprietary processes. You know, we consider how you feel about investing, how you're going to react to downturns, and creating diversification, not only in an asset class, like in stocks. You want diversification there. It goes better historically. And active management skews lower return. What is active management? It's trading. And so we want diversification in each of the asset classes, but you want diversification in asset classes. So your money's not all in one area, because does all areas do good all the time? No. And generally, they all don't do bad at the same time. So what I have to think about is I want rotation, and I don't want everything going down. Do you want to be down 20% of everything? No, I kind of like having half the assets with no downside risk. And then I don't mind it in the others, but I don't want it all going down like, say, stocks are this time. So I like me some money in stocks, but I want to do it efficiently and be diversified. I like me some bonds, but I don't want to be very interest rate sensitive right now, because it's the seesaw bond. Yields are going up, values are down. So you want to be less sensitive to that. And then I like tactical. I like to adjust the portfolio. I like to, personally, I like that adjustment. But data tells me it gives me an opportunity to take advantage of what's in favor in rotation. And that's like quantitative tactical. That asset class is going to follow momentum. And like now, there is no momentum. It's setting in cash at this time. But what is it? It's opportunity money. And I kind of look at that as moderate investing. I don't want to be aggressive. What I want is the opportunity to keep going. And building it that way also, for most people, you know what they dislike? Losing money. It's like if I gave you $100 bill this afternoon and you get home later, and you're trying to find, like, oh my God, where'd it go? Where is it? Can't find it. You were excited when I gave it to you, but now this evening you couldn't find it. You lost it. You're bummed out. Well, it's kind of the way people look at their accounts right now. They're a little bummed out. But we know the 20 times this market has been down 20% in trailing 12 months. The year after, it's came back at 17%. This is going to come back. Don't interrupt the compounding. How important is compounding? Warren Buffett's wealth, he's worth in excess of $140 billion. He was a millionaire in his 20s, but over 95% of his wealth came after he qualified for Social Security benefits. Yes. Most all of that darn wealth came to him in his retirement years. Yeah, he's not retired. Why would he retire? What would he retire from? But that's what you need to understand about compounding. And you make that decision to act on that life optional work style. You're going to stop the money from working? No, you're going to need it. It's probably working longer for you in retirement than you work to accumulate it there. If you have a financial situation, want to call in 504-260-0995. That's what Bill from Laurel, Mississippi did. How can we help you, Bill?
Thank you, sir. Enjoy your show. Listen every week. I had a question about spousal benefits that y'all have been talking about. Recently divorced. It was my understanding that my wife could draw off of my Social Security now, and of course at the time of my death. Is that correct?
Yes. long as y'all were married for 10 years, she can draw off of your work record and it has no impact on you. So she could draw while you're living as a spousal benefit, and if you die before her, she could draw on the survivor benefits if it's more than, both cases, it would need to be more than her work record.
Right. Well, mine is substantially more than hers. I'm basically trying to get her more cash flow. And even though we are divorced, it was my understanding. I called Social Security and talked to an individual and said, yeah, she could draw 50% of my benefit. She contacted them and they said no.
Well, let's dig into that. So she's already drawing Social Security?
Yes.
Okay. And
she's 70. She's turning 70. I'm 73.
And you've been divorced for more than 2 years?
No.
Okay, there's why right there. It's got to be a 2-year period for that divorce. That's the hang up right there. She got to wait 2 years after the divorce.
Okay. After 2 years, she can apply.
Yeah, and if that benefit's larger than hers, she'll be switched to it, but it's got need that 24 months knocked out in that case.
Very good.
Awesome.
Well,
glad we could find that.
Okay, very good. That makes perfectly good sense.
Okay. Glad I could help. Tell everybody about us. We're at Winning at Life. Thank you, Bill. Have a great weekend. Hey, it's like good. Fine. What's the holdup? Because we know the rules, but she's not getting it. We drill down, and it's 24 months in that case. So, pretty cool. Let's see, where are we at? Plan versus planning. I have talked about that today, and I think people focus too much on plans when planning is ongoing. You're not going to okay, I'm retired, I'm done, here's what I'm going to do going forward. I think planning is the most important thing, and that's why at our firm we have the guided planning system process. That's a trademark proprietary process because we believe, setting up a plan, but that just is the start of ongoing planning. It's like going sailing. Do you set the sail and never adjustment? Well, you're not going to get to where you're going, I'm going to tell you. And planning is ongoing work, discussions, consultations, and help and guidance. If you'd like some of that help, my firm, and we've got multiple offices, one number you need to call, 504-832-9200. That website is Gregory Ricks.
Services. Gregory Ricks & Associates is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and Gregory Ricks & Associates are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for a financial decision, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Gregory Ricks & Associates is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Gregory Ricks & Associates. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences, including, but not limited to, a need for additional tax withholding or estimated tax payments, the loss loss of certain tax deductions and credits, and higher taxes on Social Security benefits and higher Medicare premiums. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA. Neither AE Wealth Management nor advisors providing investment advisory services through AE Wealth Management recommend or facilitate the buying or selling of cryptocurrencies. Third parties and guests of the show are not affiliated with, nor do their opinions reflect those of Gregory Ricks & Associates or AE Wealth Management. AE Wealth Management provides services without regard to political affiliation, and the views of individual advisors are not necessarily the views of AE Wealth Management. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
WRNO FM, New Orleans, an iHeart radio station. Available everywhere on our